Main event, showdown of the century. They say. Corrales Castillo.
Biggest fight ever. Biggest fight since Floyd Pacquiao.
Biggest fight since Floyd Logan Paul, according to the broadcast today.
You're right.
Let's open up. Any opening generalizations on the fight?
Anytime I watch Paul, I want to see somebody get knocked out, whether it's him or somebody else. I'm not really in this for a split decision. I'm in this for knockouts. So I would have loved. I predicted he would knock him out. Paul would knock Woodley out.
Yeah.
But I'm just not here for decisions. I want to be entertained, baby.
Surprised by the split decision at all?
Yeah, that was crazy.
For sure.
Yeah, kid's in his hometown.
I think we all thought unanimous decision for Paul.
Before I came in here, TV said 58% on Twitter felt like Woodley won that fight.
Yeah.
And I disagree.
Yeah.
No disrespect.
Twitter nailed the Rigondeaux fight. This one I have to disagree with. But,
and the Rigondeaux fight might have been better than this one.
Yeah.
That
was...
Twitter don't know shit about boxing, sound like it.
Nah, they know the Rigondeaux.
Oh, okay. You sound like you just agreeing with him.
With the Rigondeaux, whatever they said, agreeing with him, I was with it. But I think I don't. It didn't validate Jake Paul as a boxer to me. Like that was kind of one of the questions. Like, and I was like, I kind of thought he was a boxer before, not like he's not a championship boxer.
You gotta separate it. You gotta separate it.
That I think the easiest way we mentioned it and we mentioned it on the show is was he 5-0 now?
4-0. 3 knockouts.
Like, find me a 4-0 fighter on any network, and picking and it's like he's a fighter that has less than a handful of fights.
Right,
like,
you never see that.
It's very easy to, in my opinion, just look at it that way. Yeah. He's on a main event, which kind of makes it a little trickier, but like he's got 4 wins.
He worked the system.
Yeah,
but it just illustrates.
You're not wrong.
It just kind of illustrates what Larry Merchant used to say, though. He says this isn't golf where the best guy gets the most money. It just don't always work like that in boxing. It's just,
the market dictates your value,
right?
Mm-hmm. So if they're gonna pay Jake Paul whatever billions to fight, and he's gonna be on the main event, and people are gonna tune in, like people were tuned in today.
Yeah, I'm not comparing it. I'm just using it as an analogy, but. We're the N1 era. We didn't hate on N1, but there was a separation.
RP Escalade.
Couple of people from N1 got into the NBA, but for the most part,
for Alston.
For the most part, it was street ball and it was the NBA.
Yeah.
This is the street ball of boxing. Y'all got to understand. Because you have to understand that you're not going to see Jake Paul fight a true boxer. Get over it.
Yeah.
But understand that he has brought an audience to the world of boxing, especially where he said making his exit out of the ring. I was impressed with that more than I was impressed with anything. I was impressed with it. No, I wasn't impressed with anything that he did tonight, but it was what it was. I said Woodley's gonna knock him out, and for about 4 rounds, I was like, Woodley's gonna get him. And then near the end of the fight, I was like, well, if Woodley turns it on in this last round, he'll get it. It never happened.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I get what you're saying. We need to see some knockouts. If you're going to be N1, if you're going to be street ball or boxing,
you throw the basketball off somebody's face.
Bring the real entertainment. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing. Like, we're paying for it. So give us the entertainment that we want. We didn't get the entertainment that we wanted overall tonight, in my opinion. But it still was relatively a decent card, and I thought that those guys here and there, they kind of did what we expected them to do. You know what I mean?
Maybe tonight was a very deep undercard fight of a guy making his professional debut and a guy that this is his 4th fight.
Yeah,
like the other ones, like he gets these big knockouts. Which you kind of see that. You had these big knockouts to start your career, and then at some point you didn't get a knockout. At some point you went the distance, and it kind of goes from there. So, I guess to you directly, the complaint or the issue is that it's diluting boxing, that it's taken away, that anyone, any Joe Schmo can just go out there and fight. What does it? Do you feel any of that, like animosity towards the situation, or is it just kind of like do your thing?
When I turned pro, my dad took me to get my license. We went to the Cleveland. We went to Cleveland to the Ohio Athletic Commission and signed paperwork and got my license, my boxing license. And it was at that moment, I don't know if I asked my dad or asked somebody there or something like that. I literally, at that moment, said, anybody can do this? And they they were trying to answer the question, but answer it in a way that made sense to me. But what I only understood was that anybody could do that. And with that being said, I understood at that moment when I was turning pro that this could happen at some point. Yeah. This is something that boxing has brought on itself. Something that we can't be mad at, because at the end of the day, we get paid to hurt people. Yeah. And it's people that get put in jail for doing this on the streets. And in order for you not to get put in jail for doing this on the streets, you go to your athletic commission in your state and you do exactly what these guys are doing right now. So with that being said, I understood it back then and I accepted it back then. I was mad back then, very mad back then. And it took me a long time to accept it, but it wasn't, I accepted it well before this. I accepted it when I started to understand that there are guys who are kind of necessary for the sport, guys who can't hurt, can't beat a fighter, but are basically there to build the fighters' records and things like that. So it's just a part of the business. And so at some capacity, I kind of understood that this was going to come eventually, and it has arrived. Yeah. With that being said, I don't feel like this dilutes the sport. The reason why I don't feel like it dilutes the sport is because, again, I look at it and separate it from the actual fighting. Now, because they're fighting on Showtime, the separation now has to be with internally. Like, we all have to understand what we're watching, but it's up to us to make the viewers understand. Make the viewers understand that even though you're watching this, it's not bad to watch this, but there's something that's a little better. And if you take a look at that, you may grow more interest in that, you know?
Let me ask you this, because this is another main storyline regarding this is, and you kind of touched on it. Is boxing to blame for this? Because that's been a common thing where people are like, well, that's what boxing gets. We don't get these mega fights, and now we get Jake Paul. Yeah. I personally don't see the correlation. I don't see how that, like, there is no correlation. I don't see how Errol Spence not fighting Terrence Crawford tomorrow somehow is like,
because this didn't replace it. You know what I mean?
I think the street ball analogy was a good call. It's two different things. I know I'm seeing two different things. Yeah. Same sport, but do you think boxing's to blame at all for it? Or is it just kind of a thing that was going to happen one way or the other?
I think it's the thing that was going to happen one way or another. And I don't know if we touched on this on the show, but like, I will go ahead and say it now. Why aren't they picking a different sport? Why aren't they picking basketball or football?
Boxing's easier to get into, just like you explained.
But even beyond that, boxing has elements that all of these other sports don't have.
The build-up.
You got the build-up. You said it while we were watching the fight. Man, boxing will test your spirit. It will tell you who you are in the moment. There's no way for you to truly figure out who you are as a person than getting in the ring and fighting someone else. Yeah. And I don't mean like as a person, am I a nice guy, or, you know, am I mad enough? Do I fight hard or whatever? There's things that boxing will test that no other sport can test. And majority of other sports, number one, you got timeouts. Number two, you got tag, you're in, I'm out. You know what I mean? There's a sidelines. There's no sidelines in boxing, you know? So boxing is just, I think, is the epitome of competition. And I think that's why these guys have chosen boxing to test their might, as they say in Mortal Kombat. As they say in Mortal Kombat, to test your might. You can't test your might in football, because even if you want to go up against Deion Sanders in a one-on-one, y'all gonna run one route, catch it, or he bat it down. Y'all gonna laugh about
There's
it.
10 other people on your side.
Start over.
10 other people on their side.
It's just boxing really is the pinnacle in terms of competition, in terms of bringing out whatever's inside of you, rendering your other opponent helpless. You know what I mean? It's the only sport where you can bet tattoo. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna see OBJ bet who's the top DB out there?
Xavier Woods,
Xavier
Rhodes.
Xavier Rhodes. Like, they're not gonna make some sideline bets because you may not never see it. You know what I mean? The game plan may be
it's something that's settled.
It's settled right there in the moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's why
it's the greatest sport in the world.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the OG. It's the original. That's how countries are built. Countries are destroyed.
Yeah.
Fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's less dangerous than in the grand sense than UFC. Like I think somebody's like, why aren't they doing MMA? It's like, you really get you could really get the shit kicked out of you.
Why aren't they doing UFC? You know what I mean?
It hurts worse. I would have to assume.
Why aren't they doing MMA? I don't think we can call it UFC.
Yeah, well, I think Jake Paul mentioned
has a wrestling background.
Yeah, I think they both wrestled. I know they played football as well. But also, I think he mentioned he respects boxing. Like he was like, something I enjoy watching, something I just enjoy. And if anything, give him a shout out. He's helping these fighters. Like he said, they got the biggest paydays of their career. Yeah. All these fighters. Miranda Serrano's on the co-main. Yeah, on pay-per-view.
And when he fights these MMA fighters, he considers himself part of the boxing brotherhood, representing as he takes them on. He embraces that. This is MMA versus boxing, and I'm with boxing. And so, as a boxing guy, that kind of endears him a little bit. It's a good move, but he, back to what you said about the human spirit. That's what made the fight have some drama. He goes back to his corner for the 5th round. You see it in his eyes. This is the first time I'm in this, and he's finding out in that moment what he's made of, and that's always so compelling in boxing.
What's up? I'm Showtime Shawn Porter.
I'm Ed. Follow me on IG, Ed with 2 T's. Let's do it. Let's do it again. All right.
Just introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then you tell them what to do. I'm Showtime Shawn Porter.
I'm Anthony Brenagh.
Carson A. Merk. Like, subscribe, comment.
This is the Porter Way.